Danny, so good to see you again, sir. Um,
See,
I know that we tried this a few months ago back in, I think it was November, and
mm,
it was on my end that it fucked up, but no longer. We're professional now. That's not going to happen this time.
very
And I'm so,
professional now. Yes.
yeah, definitely. And I'm stoked to see you again, man.
Yeah, I'm stoked to see you too. How you been, Jacob?
I've been good. I actually recently caught you guys, the Night Beats, at the Continental Room in
Yeah.
Fullerton, and that was a packed show, and it
Right.
was great. It was fantastic.
Thanks. Yeah, it was cool. I used to go down there quite a bit. We used to stop down there on tour, and spend some days in that part of the country. So it was cool coming back and yeah, playing the place and seeing some friends, and it was cool.
Last time we did this, you were in Los Angeles, right?
Yeah, correct. Yes,
But right now you're in Texas.
correct. It was about last month, and it's been real nice. Yeah, I'm close to some family out here, and yeah, I'm working on some things, so I have some space to work on it. Uh, uh, yeah, man, feels good. It feels really nice.
So no more LA.
Not for the time being. Yeah, I'll be there in September or so. Um, but you know, uh, I lay my hat elsewhere.
Do you prefer it over there?
Yeah, I guess so. I think that I like open spaces a little bit more than I thought. Um, I like hearing hearing nature, listening to cicadas and just owls and things at night and chasing out scorpions, stuff like that. It's like more fun for me.
Are you surprised by the influx of people who have been moving to Texas, like in areas like Austin, for instance, that there's been just so many people coming through and living there? Does that shock you kind of?
I wouldn't say, to be honest, that I don't really know the numbers of people. When I was in LA, people were saying Texans were moving out there, and then when I came back to Texas, people saying vice versa. So it's hard to it's hard to know. Um, but I
They're
think
following you is the thing.
no way. That's it's. I'm more of like the moth going to the flame in whatever direction it chooses. You know.
Uh, did you know that you were going to go back to Texas eventually, even when you moved to California?
I didn't think of it like that. I couldn't tell you an honest answer if it was like a sayonara or a I'll be right back. You know. Yeah, I couldn't really tell you. It's tough. I mean, what about you? When you move, do you feel like you have made an ultimatum each time, or you kind of like leave a pinky toe in the door and sort of see what happens?
I've been in California my whole life, so if I were to move, I don't know. I think I would eventually move back. I don't know
Mm,
though. Maybe we'll see. We'll do this podcast in a few years, and then I'll give you a direct
okay.
answer. Yeah, but I think I'd
Okay.
always come
We'll check
back.
back in. Okay. Sounds good.
It's crucial to touch base again.
That's good. It's good for the roots.
Um, how long had Night Beats kind of been around when you initially moved to Los Angeles?
Oh, at least 8 years. Um, Possibly 9 to 10. First Night Beats recordings were on my laptop in my girlfriend's basement, 2008, I want to say. But those were, yeah, I was playing Night Beats sets during that time, and it was like a 5-piece band, and then it was a 2-piece band, and then it toured mostly as a 3-piece band in the first couple of years. But as the moves like work out, I think I was in LA probably like by the time I was working on the fifth album,
Has
fourth album. Sorry, my numbers are all messed up. My timelines are all crisscrossed, but
it's fine. We're gonna can we check if that was the fourth or the fifth? I'm trying with my producer here, so we'll see. We'll pull that up and we'll get back.
Diesel. Cecil, we need those numbers. Okay, thank you.
I'm glad that
Yeah,
you
thanks,
also
Cecil.
have,
Okay, so
yeah.
2014 was Who Sold My Generation, and then that was before I moved to LA, but I was kind of staying around LA area that time. Um, but then I moved back to Dallas, and then from Dallas I moved to LA. So that was like maybe 6 years ago, or
Wow.
4 years ago. I don't know.
Do you
Mayan sun calendar, um, conversion. Yeah, I think we have about 4.5 years.
does location impact your music, whether it be in Texas or California? And I don't know if you're working on night beat stuff in Washington. Was that also going on at that time when you were up there?
Yeah, so I moved to Washington and began really working on night beats up there. Um, Location, I feel I think it's more circumstance than location, to be honest. Because at the end of the day, how you record something is, I think, a lot to do with the performance. I think a lot of it, people can talk all day about different mics and corners and acoustics and things, but really, I think a large percentage of it is the performance element and how that comes across. And really that could, then you start talking about influence. So like influence, really, it's like what kind of eggs you had that morning. Sometimes, it's like, um if you're doing something that's either kind of fluid or preconceived, then you're just gonna be like in that process of making something. So then how are you feeling while you're making something? I don't know, you're doing something. I don't know if that makes sense. But location, I mean, I might end up being more of an influence than I knew. We'll see once I start writing more and recording more out here, you know.
Right, right. What led to the initial origin of night beats? How did that kind of come about?
Well, when I was in Dallas, like I grew up, uh, I was born in Plano and grew up around the Richardson area. And then North Dallas area, I started looking for bands around like 15, really 14, but around 15, I was like going on what we had back then called Backpage.com, which was like a yellow pages, kind of like classified ads. But they still have that type of stuff now, but it's like kind of like Craigslist. So like I started looking for bands and people to play, and at this point I could borrow my brother's car. So I found a band, joined the band, ended up fronting this group of, they're like 26, 28-year-olds, and it was awesome. And it was like my first exposure of playing, what's a sound check, like what do you expect to make at a gig, and music. So the music that I was making in Dallas was me throughout the end stages of high school. So after high school, I moved to Seattle. And after I had already made like two records in Dallas, one was like a solo record, and then one was with my band. And then actually there's another set of recordings with this band called the Old Explosives that I started with Traeger, James Andrew Traeger, back in high school. And we had like one or two shows, like small cafes type of thing, like literally garages, just playing to our friends. But when I moved to Seattle, I carried with me this idea of like what is now Night Beats, and I called it the Night Beats. And Blackwell was the pen name, and it was supposed to be an anonymous sort of thing. It was the beginning of like kind of MySpace, social media, internet times, when you were able to make something and not, it could be online so anyone in the world can hear it, and there'd be no way to trace your identity or find out who you are. Like I wanted to make a million of these, like I wanted to just like kind of plant little like anonymous like Easter eggs basically out there to sort of expand like a musical like palette basically. I wanted to play like my favorite type of garage rock shit that I liked, and then I wanted to play some kind of beat sampling things that I used to mess around with. So Nightbeat's origin really comes from me figuring out how to play drums, and and writing like songs and seeing how it worked with like playing with other people and looking for a touring group and then evolving into something else that it's currently the same thing in its core. It's very, very much the same thing, but I have I've been able to say now that there's 6 chapters to it. And does that answer your question
It
at all?
definitely
Is
does.
that
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. I guess a little more like history shit would be like I recorded on my own for the first few years. And then Traeger came into the picture and he added some drums and then the 3-piece band went into the studio and then we recorded the album to tape and then the next one and then the next one. And
The
that's what I thought it was.
right.
Recording and living in a van and doing that.
And the
Living,
name came from a Sam Cooke album, right?
yeah.
That was where that came from.
Yeah, exactly. My sister had the Sam Cooke like CD anthology thing and it had one of the it had Night Beat in it and I was just like that's it. That's it.
What was it about that song that stuck out to you so much?
It wasn't just a song and it's an album but it's really the idea that this is going to be the brick. This is going to be the cement. This is going to be the foundation to this group, this project, whatever it goes into. It's going to have this root of Sam Cooke and music, soul music, um and that also gave me sort of a freedom to do whatever it is I wanted to do because I had my North Star, kind of, you know. Um, but sometimes, you want to turn the ship around. Sometimes you want to capsize it. Well, you can't really capsize it, but you know,
What were those early days of the group like for you?
touring. It was touring. It's not that much different, brother. Like it's writing on my own, and then it's choosing when I want to record it, and it's having to balance living in and out of um, what was, uh, floors and couches is now Motel 6s and Super 8s. But it's what were those early days? It was yeah. It it was more just sort of we were coming up and just figuring it out as we were going. There wasn't any sort of uh
Blueprint.
example necessarily, besides just if you were a part of a local music scene and you saw touring bands come in and come out and you're like, oh, that's how you load your gear. Look at that, like just little teenagers figuring shit out. That's why I wish there were more all ages shows, to be fair. Um, but yeah, there were so many great bands too that we got the chance to tour with and meet along the way. Seeing Shannon and the Clams become such an amazing, beautiful thing is totally like totally knew it, called it. But they're incredible people, and there's just too many to name. But seeing the Ute still tour is good. Um, but people need to tour smart too. There's
Right.
there's a lot of things that aren't addressed, I think, when it comes to what someone signs up for when they go on the road and then they want to tour and they want to continue this for forever, you know. Um, but yeah, that's maybe for a larger discussion sometime.
When it did begin and you were touring and whatnot, did you feel like you were prepared?
Oh, I felt prepared. I felt prepared, but I actually was. It's like when you learn to skate the wrong way or something, or like you are more than willing to bomb a hill, with your feet a certain way, but there's actually a position here that will like maybe prevent you breaking your ankle that you should try.
Yeah.
So um Yeah, no, I feel like I was prepared and, headstrong enough to get through and power through like any emotional trauma or physical trauma or, things that would have inevitably uh come to rear its head at some point in my life.
Right.
And yeah, you need to also be prepared to be the business person that is the point person when someone else is, it's like being a good teammate, like you want to be able to have everyone's back and also know that everyone's human and we all want the same thing, which is, and everyone else is trying to do the best too. One would think. Um, so yeah, there's plenty of shit and pearls that I have now that like I'd have to find somewhere else before, but that's what time does, right?
Right. Right. Now, were you touring before the first album came out? Were you already touring with like
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Oh yeah,
wow?
yeah.
And
Well
was it
before the oh.
like 2009, 2010 ish?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, early 2009. Playing out though since I was younger, but with Nightbeats, Nightbeats was playing around Seattle in different forms for about a year and a half. And then by the time it was touring, it was boom, like the album and then tour. So yeah, that happened rather fast, I guess.
Was the first release Trouble in Mind, and that was in 2011's release? Was that the first legitimate here it is?
We did a self-release of the H-Bomb EP first. There's only a few copies out there somewhere. I don't know. They're all handmade. Me and Traeger did the artwork for it and licked the stamps and did the whole thing, ourselves. And uh, so that was probably 010, maybe 09. I can't even. There's a way to find out if you were to look up Nightbeats Comet Tavern. There's a show that I know because we got to ride up in the Stranger. That was really cool. Dave Siegel wrote us a really awesome review. Uh, and yeah, we just had our 7-inch self-pressed, paid for it
Wow.
from just our Drago worked out of Delhi. I worked for an electric company, you know, and a church. But, you know,
Was that big for you? Like that first press? You're like,
oh
this
yeah,
is legitimate.
hell yeah. Yeah, I put it on and listened to it. It sounded great. And I worked at this record store too at the time, and I definitely played the 45 a lot. Yeah, it
Like,
was
yeah,
great.
these
I was
guys are
pushing it.
rad. These guys are local kind of dudes. You should yeah, they're gonna
Oh
come
yeah,
up big,
totally, totally.
talking it up.
Hell yeah. That's power. It's like being a DJ. Or like, like you're playing and it's in a public space, anything you want, and it's a record store. But it's really more of a pawn shop, but it was definitely a record store too. Um, Sold instruments also.
Good deal. And it was 2011 like the first time with the Trouble in Mind. Was that the first album that wasn't totally self done? That you had a little bit of backing with it?
Well, we didn't have any backing as far as like um anything was paid for. We made the album and then uh gave it to them to release, distribute, press the vinyl and release. But yeah, I think to answer your question, yes, that was the first company besides us that did it. There was like a short thing with this UK group that we were talking to, and there might have been like a digital thing that they basically just put up, and I never heard from them since. It's kind of a weird situation, but no, Trouble in Mind was the first kind of legit um label.
How long
Shouts
were
out
the
to Phil and Lisa, love those guys.
Yeah, I mean, definitely giving you a shot early, and that was it's pretty early on from the origin of the band, going into to putting the first full release out.
Yeah.
How long were those songs, or how long had those songs been around? in kind of you've been playing them and getting acquainted with them before they came out on that record?
Well, probably around at least a year, because that self-pressed one, you know, that's around the time when I had recorded it. So it must have been close to about a year, but also those songs were um, rattling around in my head at some point before. So hard to say.
Do the same themes that inspired those songs inspire you now, or is there different inspiration that's fueling? I mean, the most recent release that's been the sixth one now.
Hmm. Hmm. Good question.
Thank you.
Um, I feel like if you're going to compose like a 16 piece arrangement or something, um, then you would want to use each part sparingly to give each element its own time to shine, basically, you know. um if you do everything kind of all at once and you don't really leave room for interpretation for one, but also the propensity for it to go a completely different direction, then I feel like you're missing out. So though there might be some similar themes that I pull from, because at the end of the day, heartbreak doesn't feel much different than it did when I was younger. Um, but there's also different ways to say those things and different ways to get it across, or joy, or like there's only if I just said I'm happy every time that I'm feeling stoked, then might get a little old. I am happy, just I mean that's kind of good too, but at the same time, I like to kind of keep it open ended with where themes and things come from.
Mhm. Right. Did you did you always know that you wanted to not kind of box yourself in and leave it kind of open to new
Yeah,
doors and
I think so.
avenues when you when you start like exploring new sounds? Like you didn't want to just be typecast as like, okay, I only make this one kind of sound.
Yeah, totally, man. Because at the end of the day, I knew that I was a guitarist that liked loud, electrified blues. And I was aware of just the sea of bullshit that also has a hankering for loud, electrified blues. So, but I love the instrument. And I love that so much that it superseded any sort of um, hesitation to play. So that just made me most curious and interested and have the most fun with is to just sort of disregard any standard or bar or something for what makes a good player.
Did you feel like the second release you wanted to explore new territories? Did you feel like you were already kind of straying away from what you already did with the first one, with the first album?
Um, so I'd say each record has that underlying, this isn't in relation to anything feeling, you know. There's a continuation, there's a thread, but there's also when you're again in the moment, so to speak, you're not really like, I think it's a given that you have to be doing stuff different. Um, if you're trying to make the same record, the basic thing is like, if you don't, I'm not trying to make the same record again ever. So yes is the short answer to your question. Yes, there was an intentional sort of like, I wanted to break free. But I feel like that with every record. So that's where I would put a little asterisk by that.
Right.
But there's also, be honest, man, like there's just a concept in mind. There's an album, and it's it's there, and there's and the ability to record it um it just was like, okay, like, when, when are you free? What's our budget? And then we go in and we just record. And I come back for all sorts of different things during that process. So I feel like it's really more of just making the thing first before, feeling like it's like thinking about it in like a retrospective way or something.
When does a record start to feel, or like at least or a song that's going in kind of a new direction? When does it start to feel like it's like, okay, like this is kind of formulating the way I wanted it to, or is it circumstantial that sometimes it's right away, or sometimes you have to really grind it out in order to reach like, okay, this is where I was trying to be at with this?
Um, well, the Lord moves in mysterious ways. What can I say? No, I think the touchdown moment is when I feel like the bass and the drums and the guitar are really at the right levels. Um, I think most of where I get hung up is by recording my demos just right here off the built-in mic in front of this thing, and then I've upgraded a little bit lately, but it would just be all at once almost. And um and the concept of the song is already, it's already in mind. Like everything is sort of figured in the sense of um what are my base colors almost. If I have to look at it from like a painting perspective, maybe it's like, okay, well, first I gave myself red. Okay. So I whatever willed my hand to put that red on the canvas, who knows? Okay. Again, it could have been what my eggs were like this morning. So like anything could influence like that happening. Um, the ideas that come after that are almost like from that wave. They're in the same sort of like tidal wave. Like there's just gonna be some shells and some fish maybe and some dirt and sand. Um, so like those things are then just sort of pushed onto the canvas too. So when you want to get technical, I think one thing to keep in mind maybe is that if there's any, young songwriters out there listening, then it's important to trust yourself, and it's important to follow that feeling, whatever it is. But it's also important to play on time, because what time teaches, your time feel is a thing that if it's not really tended to, then it shortens your ideas, I would say. And we don't need any more of this shortening, quickening happening, I think, with internet and different social medias. It's very short attention span type of shit. And giving yourself time by studying time, I think, is the most important thing, because I didn't really learn drums right until like I was able to play with a metronome. And it's a different thing than to follow a metronome. It's just, playing with the metronome is a trippy experience. It's an amazing feeling also. So using those elements and those kind of those ideas in play, so much of, to answer your question, would fall under the branch of the initial idea is pushing through past like the writing step, past the numeration things that happen on a piano, past the things that kind of like signify structure, because you're just going with it. You're just going with it until like you know that it's this thing that you want to hear again and again and again. Um, and then if it's an open free experience, then your writing is always happening. It's never off until you say it's off.
Do you try to get as much done as possible? Like when that first, like you said, like the red is on the canvas, do you try to add to it immediately? Or are you fine with kind of taking a step back for a day or so,
I'm totally fine
or
with taking a
whatever?
step back. Yeah, take as much. I'll take as much step back as I feel like. Like um, if I am in a studio though, and I have like great headphones on, and I'm listening to everything, then I would love to get the take and then move on to the next one, so I can get like the bass in there and then I can hear the guitars, piano, tambourine, whatever the hell, like if I get the take, then I know that I did that service, or someone did a great job with it. Like then it's time to move on to the next part. Absolutely.
Right. Is it uh, difficult to tap into where you were creatively when you started a song? Like if there's kind of like a skeleton of a song, or like it's kind of being fleshed out, and then you come back to it. Are you trying to tap into where you were previously and where it started from, or are you open to like expanding? It's like, okay, well, my eggs were like this today, which was different than 2 weeks ago. So let me bring a little bit of today's eggs into what I was doing 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, for sure. That sounds like a little bit of a health hazard, by the way, because your eggs 2 weeks old, they might want to be tossed out at that point before you
Yeah,
mix them
Rocky
up.
would not do that. I mean, and I'm not advising that. I'm just let me clarify that.
Full disclosure. Um, but yeah, I think for one, I guess though the thing with me is that if it doesn't hit in a somewhat fast way, then I'm going to just like leave it be. Um, that being said though, like yeah, there's tons of times where something kicks my ass, like I'm trying to get something from that original place, or not necessarily from the original place, but from the original take. And that just comes, honestly, practice, like I like to dwell in that that place where there's mistakes, what someone might think is a mistake. um like I like pressing my finger into the wound a little bit, and seeing what hurts, seeing what feels good. But yeah, I think it's worth exploring, I think getting to a place where like your instruments are your um really your tools, I mean, they're tools, but
Feeling comfortable
really,
with them. Yeah.
yeah, get it, yeah, comfortable.
When did you start to feel comfortable with the tools within Night Beats? When did you start to feel like, all right, I know what I want to do with this. I know how to use these tools to make what I want to make with this band.
Well, I'm questioning that every day, my man. I mean, you know, I would think that, you know, the ability to say what you want to say the right way is it should come easier with time, but unfortunately, well, or maybe not unfortunately, but um th- when you're always looking, when you're always searching, and you're always um exploring, then you know there might not be a sea of gold. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. You're chasing something that's not there, maybe
yeah, but I
sometimes.
gladly accept the idea of being a you know traveling the ocean in a big canoe, using the stars as your guide, and trying to discover new land. And you don't know if you're going to reach it, but you're
You're
you've
out there doing
accepted.
it. You're exploring. Do you ever think about how your audience or the listeners of your music are gonna interpret these new sounds if you're introducing something that you haven't kind of uh, trekked sonically?
I feel like it's like a barbecue or something. Like I make what I like, and I make it for the people.
Yeah,
You know,
and you're gonna
like,
like it. Yeah, if you're hungry, you're gonna like it. You want
yeah,
something.
like a pit master knows how to make the best barbecue you'll ever taste, ever, hands down. But it's for him, barely eats, maybe gets a meal at the end of the shift. You know,
Maybe.
or it's
By the way, does
yeah,
Texas have the best barbecue in your opinion?
yes. There's a lot of great barbecue in the world, but I think the things that go into good barbecue and the things that I like if there's like a Venn diagram, like it's got Lockhart, Texas, right in the middle of it.
Did you feel like you were traversing new paths or routes, if you will, with the newest album?
Mm, yeah, because like I said before, like each record is that's sort of the mission, you know. Like even if you're using the same amps and the same guitars and all the same uh tools, it's supposed to be new day, new story, new world,
Right.
new
And
scene.
it's Rajan, right? I'm saying that correctly.
Yes,
Rajan.
yes.
Okay, cool.
It can be pronounced Rajan, Rajan, Ra, John, Rajan, Rajan. That's
All
like
right.
the way I mostly say it. But
Okay, good deal.
Rajan, yeah, Rajan is also good.
What was working on the album like for you? How long was like the kind of the process from inception of ideas to making it, recording it at least?
Hmm. Well, it had almost two waves. I was working on a large batch, I'd say, like large meaning like around 30 or 40 songs, 34. It was gonna be a double album. And then I actually was working on the Abraxas record in the middle of that too, and ended up like shifting my gaze on that and finishing this, and then coming back to the stuff for Rajan and noticed that I didn't like any of it. Um, so I started over, and a couple of the songs made it from that original version, but a lot of them were really just right out the oven, like brand new.
Were some of them just slightly tweaked, or was the
Uh,
whole basically the whole thing was maneuvered in a different way?
I guess you could say it was all maneuvered quite a bit. Um, I think the most defining feature was the way that we recorded drums, which we went from digital to tape, and getting the bass and the drums and 90, most of 90, maybe 90% of the sounds are recorded to tape on those songs. So I think that made a big difference, Um, and then my playing on it was just different. I don't know what I ate that morning, but I came in with hockey, with maybe like one or two takes, and then um, same with the guitars. Like it was just flowing, flowing, flowing.
Good deal. When we first chatted back in November, that was kind of hot off the heels of that large Europe tour that you guys were on, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was right around that time, I believe, that you guys just got off that.
True, true.
Were you guys kind of playing some of those songs um out there, or what did you start kind of introducing it into the set list, or not yet?
Not yet. Not in Europe. Not last year, but lately, yes.
What has been people's reaction to it live?
I think it's been cool.
The sixth album,
Mm,
right? Wow.
yes.
Um, does it ever surprise you how much music you've generated from just one group, from one band?
Mm, surprise, no. In all humility, no. I mean, I don't want to sound too whatever, but I don't really have a stand. I don't really, um I think also there's just so many amazing artists nowadays making tons of music, tons and tons of music, and they keep finding other cool ways of putting it out. I think at the end of the day, like our job musicians is just to make the best shit that we can make, you know. So yeah, I'm definitely proud of this record, and uh, I hope people enjoy it too and feel something cool. That's that's all I'm hoping for.
Night Beats has been around roughly 14, 15 years now. Did you ever think that you would, you know, be at the place you are right now sonically with the band when it first started? Would this have amazed you if you were able to see into the future of what this band has brought you and produced?
Um, um, I don't know what I would feel like, to be honest, because I'd be like, "Who the hell is this?" And like, it sounds like
Solid first reaction. I'm not gonna lie. That's
I'd, I'd be like, "Wait, the fuck is this?" You know? I'd be like,
would you believe it was you if you saw yourself back then? If you saw your future self that time traveled, would you how like would you think that you would know yourself, your future self?
"Ooh, baby, liking this question, like, to know myself. If I met myself now, let's say 10, 15 years ago, um, oh man, yeah, I think I would know it's me.
But you'd have to do some
Depending,
investigation,
okay,
right?
so depending on the scenario that we're painting here, there's
Mhm.
like some type of no, like conscious, uh, like there's something that's like being played to me, right? Or I'm hearing maybe somewhere, and some person tells me, "Do you believe that this is you?" So that's like the scenario kind of that we're painting. That's sort of it.
Yeah, or like you just show up in front of yourself and you go, "Hey, I'm you from the future." You're just yeah,
Okay, totally.
you're seeing yourself in 2008 ish.
So if yeah, there was some sort of like trans-dimensional being type of figure that appears to me and explains to me that this is your music in the future. What do you think, dude? Um, I would definitely believe that it was me. Yes, yes.
How
I
long
would
do you think it would take your past self to buy into like, okay, this is me from the future?
to like
That's it.
prove to
That's at
prove
least like a
that
2 hour conversation for
that's
sure.
at least a 2 hour movie, dude. Like that's a beautiful straight to cassette. Future self, me and my future me, or something like that. You have to
I
call it
like that. Me
like,
and my yeah.
wait, we gotta get to the bakery at well, now it's just turning into Back to the Future. But yeah, how long would it take for me to convince myself that I was me in the future? Um, dude, that'd be real easy. You just have to ask a couple questions, and you know what questions to ask.
So like what, like 15 minutes? You're thinking? Like
No, like
I'm
one question, probably.
it's like a couple like a minute maybe. Less.
Yeah, I would be sold in a second, really, if I was just like, like yeah, I don't know, like what vegetable can you also eat, like an onion, and then, or like an apple and it's an onion, then I'd be like, okay, what's up? I'd be
Okay,
like,
just immediately.
what's the future like? Like
That's a good security question.
something,
But for your future self. All right.
you know, maybe like Star Wars or something related to like a certain thing that I would, you know, like I'd ask myself if I really
You'd be
wanted
like,
to.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
me are on the same path. Gotcha.
Yeah, for sure. I am me and you are me. Yeah. I think I'd be able to roll with it after that.
All right. Very well.
What about you? Would you just need like, okay, hold on. I need at least like a 10-minute thing to make sure I'm not having a stroke. Like
At
what
least that's at the very least 10 minutes. Yeah, no, I'm gonna need a bit more than that for sure. If somebody was saying, "Hey, I'm you," it's like, we'll see about that, pal. It'd be there'd be some questions going on. Definitely.
but you'd look like you, so you'd have like,
But
physical proof,
people have said that to everybody, like, "Oh, you look like such and so or whatever, blah blah blah." So like,
Yeah, have any of those people ever come up to you in public probably and said, "Hey, I'm you, dog." Like,
no, that's never happened to me.
time travel exists in my dimension.
Yeah.
You or me, I am you.
But
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd ask anything about the future. I think maybe I just want to be surprised by it. I don't know
Mm,
though. But that's just present me talking that hasn't come across future me, so I don't know how I'm gonna feel about that either.
yeah,
I'm just speaking to the moment right now. But then that's
true.
like an interdimensional, or at least interdimensional within time. Maybe that's not a dimension. Is time linear? Is it cyclical?
Time is not linear.
Okay. All right. Well,
Time is not linear.
at least that's crossed off. We we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. Abraxas. How did that kind of come about?
Abraxas was me and Carolina, and we are, yeah, it's a two-piece group. We started sending each other music a few years ago. We're old friends, you know. She writes great, beautiful, awesome music. It's really inspiring, and we decided to, yeah, yeah, just sort of make a record. Like the two of us get to write freely, and it's more cumbia driven.
And was she in she was in Los Bichos for a time? Is that the
Yeah,
same?
yeah,
Okay. Yeah,
yeah,
she's a
correct.
great great guitarist.
Yeah,
Uh
she's
was it kind of difficult arranging this group with you guys living so far apart, you living in Texas and her living in the UK? Was it ever a difficulty like, hey, we gotta get together and do this, or
yeah, I guess it front. I mean, I think we didn't do a lot of things that a band would like to do together, you know, which is practice and um, you know, get weird in the studio and try out different things. But I think what we were able to make work, I'm really proud of, and we were able to, you know, with modern times of the internet, we can receive each other's files. So yeah, once we were ready for printing it, you know, for going in the studio and recording it, then it was pretty, you know, pretty straightforward, I guess. I like to
what?
play and I like to write, and she's a fun person to write with, and just an amazing human being in general. So like, what we were able to work and create. We just finished a tour that was really impactful. We were opening for Witch and Death Valley Girls, so it was really cool.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a great lineup right there.
yeah, it was so cool. It was great.
Were you
Um,
also playing with it were in Witch as well
yeah,
on that tour?
yes, I did. For the first week, I was filling in, and it was amazing. It's just a huge honor to just play those songs and learn the songs and play with them. They're like family, man. They're really amazing people. All the players.
Was that
Oh,
difficult to kind of pull a double duty on the same tour? Or once you got into the swing of it, you were in the swing of it?
yeah, really, it's like once you're in the swing of it, you're in the swing of it type of thing. Um, Drink water, you know. Um, I don't know. Try to hydrate.
Was
Um,
that the first Abraxas tour ever?
yeah, sure was, man. What a spot.
Wow. So what was that like the first kind of times that you guys were really playing these songs a lot together?
We'd actually gotten together before in California, a few months prior, and but yeah, with this group of musicians, it was the first time that the four of us got together.
So it,
Love
it
Kate and Charlie. Great.
it's four all together, but you two created it.
Hmm.
Okay, good deal. What has it been like kind of stepping away from Night Beats and focusing on another project? Has that been like the first kind of project that you've really been um fully into and like a huge part of outside of Night Beats?
Well, not exactly. So UFO Club is another group that I have when we put out a record about 10 years ago, and we've never toured, but we've played shows usually in Austin. My other bandmate Christian Bland of Black Angels, him and I made a record 10 years ago in this garage out here in Austin, and yeah. And then there's other groups that I've like torn with, you know, either a hired gun or session things, but Black Lips, Ronnie Spector, um, did some session work for Hunks and his Punks, Curtis Harding. Yeah, super glad to have all those experiences, you know, in my my mind a palace. um, but
With being in Abraxas though, did you feel like you were able to explore different sounds, kind of focusing on this
oh yeah,
cumbia psych
definitely, man.
sound?
I mean, it was more world building than I would say. We kind of have our themes, you know. We have like our working with someone else. It's fun to have like sort of concepts and ideas that you both really love exploring, in unison almost. So there, yeah, it's more of like an interplanetary sort of world building exercise in the and sound and with cumbia. I think there's just like um a lot of depth to it at the end of the day. And I'm there's so many traditional slash non-traditional cumbia bands that are out there working and playing and writing and stuff, but this isn't intended to be like one thing by any means. So um if it's fun to write it, then that's usually what we go with. It's fun to write and play and create, and that's where it's at.
Is there some aspects that Abraxas and Night Beats share? Do they
Mm.
is there any overlapping in between both the projects, whether it be influences or songwriting
uh
style, whatever it may be?
yeah, I don't know. I mean, you got me. That's the overlap. I mean, I don't know if I could really hide myself if I tried. Um, but yeah, I think if anything, maybe the inclusion of my voice as like the lead vocal for the Abraxas is more, I guess you would say, a common theme, thread or thread,
Thread and thread, either. Synonym in my book.
thread.
That's yeah. What has it been like? I mean, it seems like you've been like really, really busy having your hand in a whole bunch of stuff. What is it like, kind of really being submerged in a bunch of different aspects within music?
Well, I'm just lucky that they're like out, you know. Um, I I I would think that like any sort of uh person that gets ideas and follows those ideas have tons of things rattling around in their heads. Everyone probably walks around with at least 6 albums, you know, like in their lifetime, their daily sort of ideas and things if they follow through. Maybe they have it recorded, maybe they don't. But carrying I don't feel like I'm carrying really anything as far as adding weight. I just think like I'm fortunate to be able to actually release and record these things. So
Right. Right on, Danny. Yeah, man. It's the the stuff is great, and I'm so stoked that you're making music
thanks.
for all of us to enjoy. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
And
Appreciate
don't get out of here with that, Danny. I'm really glad that we were able to re-record this, man. I'm super super stoked on it. Thank you so much for coming back on, and so we could chat.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jacob. I appreciate you having me, man, taking the time out of your day. Um, uh,
My days are open. Yeah, and thank you, Danny. But before I let you go, I got some promo to do, and you got a lot of stuff going on, so we gotta
sure.
go through it. So, Night Beats Music streaming everywhere, wherever the people get their music, that's where they can find you, right?
Yes.
Good deal. And including the most recent album that we've been discussing, Rajan. You can get that album at suicidesqueeze.net, right? People can go buy that album right now. It's out. The
Exactly.
physical vinyl.
Yeah, there's 5 variants, and a few of them have already sold out. There's a artist edition. That's the one that's on the Bandcamp, and it's got signed LP. It's got a jumbo newsprint poster. Download my favorite variation of the color vinyl. And then yeah, I think also on the Bandcamp there's the other versions too, but the one that has it's all signed and everything, that's the one that is like the most direct support to the band if that's the way that you're trying to roll. But you know,
So go buy that variant and the other ones as well. Go buy both variants. Go give it to
Yeah,
somebody else and say, hey,
get one
check
for
this
your
out.
kids, get one for your uncles, your nieces, your nephews. Um, Christmas is around the corner.
Christmas is around the
Um,
corner. When this comes out, it is around the corner. So go buy it.
Halloween gift. Get a
Halloween,
Halloween out of it.
bingo. Yeah. For any occasion, Flag Day, whatever it may be. But
It was Bastille Day when we released the album, so you know,
there you go.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the other releases are also on the Bandcamp as well, correct?
Correct, Mundo.
Good deal. So if you want to buy those as well, that's where you could find it. And at nightbeats.us has some stuff as well, merch.
Nightbeats.us. It takes you to wherever you need to find your shit. So
Good deal. So go there if you're lost.
yeah.
Um, and people can stay up to date with news and tours and releases and everything else by following the Night Beats on Instagram, right? And that's at the Night Beats.
Yeah, I think so.
That's where all the news is and whatnot. That's where all the happenings are
All that
happening.
happens. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's at the Night Beats, no underscore, just straight across. And Abraxas's music is also streaming everywhere, wherever you get your music. That's where you could find it. And you can buy the new album, the debut album, Monte Carlo, through Suicide Squeeze, as well. Correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct, Mundo.
Good deal. Or through the Bandcamp at Abraxas. I is this INTL? Is that international? Is that what that's
Mm-hmm.
referring to? All right, good. I just want to
That's
be
yeah.
brushed up on my abbreviations there. Again, that's
I
Abraxas.
got it.
intl.bandcamp.com is where you could also go support the band. And everybody can stay up to date with everything like news and releases and shows and all that good stuff by following the band on Instagram at Abraxas INTL on Instagram.
Good
Right?
job. You
Thank
nailed
you,
that.
sir. Danny, thank you so much, sir. I really appreciate you. I'm gonna stop recording this and I'll talk to you in a minute, all right?
Thank you, man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And you're a great listener and you're
Huh?
doing awesome stuff.
I had to
And
throw it. I had to throw it in there at the end.
Say what? Say
Thank you,
what?
Danny.